Hello and welcome to Pearls of Wisdom by Pearl Operational Design. I am Hazel Lord, the founder of Pearl Operational Design. We've gone through a couple of videos now where we talked about, what is operations, and I'll refer you to go back to when we talked a little bit about that. And then now we're going into, what makes up your design of your operations? Because then we're going to start to talk later on about things like, when you want to scale your operations, how are you going to scale? When you want to merge, whatever you're looking to do, when you want to implement technology and enable, how are you looking at your operations holistically in order to be as effective as possible with some of these strategies? So let's hop on to the last one. So I did talk last time about process. It was quite a scenic view behind me and a little bit of wind. Hope you still got the message around how important process is as a component of your operations. We talked about technology and how critical technology is. Well, today we're going to be in that same vein. We're going to talk about data, our data-driven world. We live in a world where we are very much governed by or driven by data. All organizations want to have data informed decision making. We have AI that is predicted, that allows you to make decisions by consuming, of course, a lot of data. So data is also really important. And in organizations, what has come about is how you treat data. So you have to look at, data acquisition. You look at how data is used, how data is stored, how data is retrieved. If you have regulations around how long you need to keep data, data is archived. What kind of governance do you have around data? And then, of course, you have things like your data stewards, your data owners, and so many more. But data does not stand alone. And so if it's one thing that you take away from what I say today is that data informs, and therefore there needs to be some sort of action that comes out of this. About 4 years ago, I wrote a blog called The Missing Link. You're welcome to go on our website to read about that. And it was talking about those little happy smiley faces in bathrooms, in certain areas. That tells you exactly how you felt about the service that you had just experienced. But it wasn't connected to anything. So if I pressed the happy smiley face, no one really knew why. What was it that was done in the service offering that caused me to press the happy smiley face? It was called the missing link because data was not informing actions. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some times when you just want to present data as a status, so you have a dashboard. Frankly, I call those things pretty pictures because data informs decisions that inform actions. And actions are executed by process. So here is my point. Do not decouple data from process. Sounds simple, right? I can't tell you how many times I have been in meetings, even chairing organizations or working groups where everyone wants to talk about data. They want to talk about how we're going to treat it. They want to talk about data sharing agreements, interoperability, but they never want to talk about process. I'm still trying to figure that one out. I have my theories, but we'll talk about it in future videos. Data is either acquired as an execution of a process, or data produces something within a process. And you need to be able to understand those things. So 4 years ago, when I talked about the missing link, I will tell you today still exists. So let's use an example because I always love examples and my examples are always simple. Let's look at a budget. We should all be doing personal budgets, right? Budgets are a mix of data that informs behavior, which really is how we execute things. So I am going to create a budget, data acquisition. And that data acquisition could be based on what I did the previous year, It could be based on what I know that someone has done, and you know what, this is how much you spend on certain things, so this is how much I'm going to allocate. And so I fill this document with the data or the information that I have in order to guide the behavior that I'm going to execute later on. So I have a budget for food. I know that, you know what, this is $50 a week if it is, and that is how much I'm going to spend. That is the process that I execute to acquire my groceries should really be informed by this piece of data that's in my budget. If I go to the grocery store, not having a good day, and I am seeing ice cream and chocolate cake and all the things that I really shouldn't be on my budget, and I blow that budget. Well, now I have a process that executed, not really data informed. And as a result, now I have newly acquired data that says I've blown through my budget. So I now have a budget versus actuals that's gone through the roof because I did not follow my decision. My process as I executed was not informed by my data because maybe I was just feeling that I needed to have sugar. Simple example, but I think it's really important to use these simple examples to highlight the fact that in our everyday world, we are using data, we are creating information, or we're just using data-informed decisions as we execute processes. So, if in our day-to-day world, we are doing this, and it is in so many examples that I use, why must it be different when we get into a business setting? Why in a business setting we only want to focus on the data and we don't want to speak to or link it to or align it to the process? So here's my challenge to you. Feel free to share any situation that you know of, you've experienced, where data was created, data was observed, but data didn't inform the actions that needed to be taken. And therefore, data was decoupled from process. Hopefully you found this information informative. If so, I always welcome you to share the knowledge. Thank you, and see you on the next video.